I now know that's where the magic happens. It doesn't happen in that comfortable place where everybody's agreeing and we're going to move as a, I like to stretch them a little bit further, and when you do, there's this element that we have to acknowledge when your will starts to begin to become uncompromising, or your passion starts to get more focused, or you tend to make a decision in that moment that you are going to do this. There's a shift in energy when we do that, and after all these years, I now know that nobody changes until they change their energy, period. And when you change your energy, you change your life. And in getting people to stay there then, I think is what I'm truly passionate about. To be able to regulate internal states independent of the conditions in their external environment means they're beginning to master their environment. So they're less reactionary to their boss or to their ex. They're more present with their family and their friends. They tend to have happiness and joy for no apparent reason. Their body is releasing old neurological and emotional patterns. They tend to be freer in their expression. They think better. They see futures and dream of futures and create, and they tend to lead with their hearts more in their lives. And I think that's a new model of human evolution. I always say, look, I don't care that you stop doing the work. What I care about is when you start doing it again. And being defined by a vision of the future, the alternative is to be defined by the memories of the past. To fall in love with the future is so much more important than keep falling in love with your past. To romance a future is so much better than romancing the past. So I think that when people really start seeing the benefits of their efforts, now it becomes instrumental. It's no longer that there's a dread that they have to get up and create. They notice the magic in their life and they want to keep it going. So they're excited about doing it. They're excited about changing, and they show up to certain degrees unpredictable in their life. And people notice that. They're not reacting as much. They're not complaining as much. They're not as frustrated. They're not in a program. And when you're not in the program, you're in the unknown, right? And so people start to notice, hey, something different about you. And that means then that they belong to their future now more than they belong to their past. Because if they're in a program or a habit or they're emotional, they are in their past. So I love that because we're working now in our 7-day retreats on a whole nother level. And this is what I'm passionate about. Many of our students, many of our community, people in our community can very easily create heart coherence and sustain it for extended periods of time. Many of our students know how to change their brain waves, and they know how to sustain brain coherence, beautiful brain coherence, for extended periods of time. Not just have a moment, but they know how to stay in that zone, and we've worked on practicing that in our events. 4-day events, 4.5-day events, I see people break through. They're free, but they're not fully grounded in that state. When they return back to their lives and all of a sudden they start getting triggered in different ways,
right.
They lose the magic, right? So even though they're doing the work, they have to work a little harder. So, but many people, they make their way. But I thought, my goodness, they've worked hard in creating these type of internal states, and why not after 4 days when they break through, instead of sending them home, keep them for 3 more days, see if we can anchor this in their brain and body and challenge them to a whole nother level. And so we've created these challenge activities where they're not sitting in the room with their eyes closed. There's great music playing. They're with their friends and community, and everything is easy for them to concentrate on their inner world, right? Because the music's great. They're disconnecting from their environment. They're forgetting that they have a body. They're not in an appointment or thinking about time, and that's when the magic happens. So then I thought, well, let's put them in circumstances or situations that would challenge them to feel some emotion like anxiety, fear, or worry, to challenge them to feel uncomfortable, and see then in that moment with their eyes open, and let's see if they can begin to settle down into the present moment and begin to change that stress response, change that emotional state right in that moment when your legs are shaking or your heart is racing. And if you were able to do that and settle down and move through that experience, a few things would happen. Number one is that you would probably realize that this is where you normally stop in your life, and you've just moved further. When you return back to your life, similar situations come up, you may actually settle your brain and body down with your eyes open and be able to make that change and not go into a program, because I believe that we learn the most about ourselves when we're uncomfortable, and we learn the most about others when we're uncomfortable. So why not put them in uncomfortable situations and see if they're able to do that? Number 3, if you're standing on a post at 40 feet and the little frame that you're standing on is wobbling and your heart is racing and you're able to settle yourself down and be able to execute and move through it, you may perceive the things in your life as less threatening. You may relatively say, well, this was nothing after what I've just done. Number 4, energy and emotions, as you know, tend to be stored equally or more in the body as in they are in the brain. So as a person moves through their own fear, their own level of endurance, they think they can't go any further. They think it's about physical strength or think about physical endurance. It's not. It's about will. It's the mind that actually takes us there. And you train those people, then it makes sense that if they're able to do that to a certain degree, that could possibly become a new state, because as they get rid of that or as they overcome that emotion, there's a liberation of energy. And that liberation of energy is available energy for them to design a new destiny. It's that energy being released from their past into the field. Now, that energy is chaotic energy, no doubt about it. But if they're still doing the work and we're still working with that energy, well, when it comes time to heal, or when it comes time to heal another person, or when it comes time to invest your attention and energy into the future, you have the available energy to do it. So it's almost been like an accelerator, an evolution of what we've been doing. And imagine people who have handicaps, that have spinal cord injuries, MS, lupus, chronic pain, all peripheral neuropathies. They could say, geez, I have a handicap, I don't think I can do this. But if you have a community of people that are cheering them on, that are all in love with them and in love with them going a little bit further, and there's no competition, there's collaboration, there's cooperation, there's an environment, an energy of support, and those people actually say, I'm just for now not going to see myself as handicapped. Well, that moment where they're not their identity, their known identity, is when they start becoming transcendental. That's the moment they start realizing that they could probably make some changes a little further than they ever thought they could make, and they would never have that thought until they've had that experience. Because once they have that experience, they can't return back to their life business as usual, because they now know. And once you know, you can't not know. And so we've seen people, we just witnessed it in our event we just did in Berlin, with crutches, with canes, in wheelchairs, with Parkinson's, just go way further than they've ever gone before. And some of those people, combining with the inner work that we're doing, have left their thrones, have left their wheelchairs. Not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4. Many people have just dropped their crutches and canes. They don't need them any longer, not because they're trying to be positive. That's not it, because that's not the message here. It's that they're in a new state of being, and their leg is less restricted. They can feel their toes. They're able to move their arms. Something has shifted, and now they latch on to the feedback. And then once they latch on to the feedback, now they want more of it, right? And that's, I think, when they begin to make the best and the greatest strides. There's a high probability, not always, but the majority of the time, there's a biological upgrade that goes on. Because the nervous system is processing. I mean, the higher the amplitude, the higher the energy. So, and you can't have energy without consciousness. So they're more conscious, they're more aware. But it's not they're aware of what's going on in their environment when they're doing the meditation. They're aware of what's going on between their ears. They're not visualizing, imagining, mentally rehearsing any longer. They're having an inward experience that feels like it's more real than any experience that they've ever had in their life. And if experience enriches the brain, and it does, and experience produces emotions, then the inner event tends to be more profound than the betrayal, the shock, the trauma. And we could say in a moment the past is washed away, that there's some type of reorganization that takes place almost instantaneously. Now, that's important to me because there's a few paths that we go. I mean, one path is you keep shaving down the personality, you keep shaving down the ego, you keep working with the programs, and we all do that. You know, that's the work that we do. And we tend to do it, and it takes time. And because it takes time, it means we're a little bit more separate from that unified field that we can access. I think the hormones of stress endorse our senses, we become materialists, and then we experience separation. You know, separation is local space and time. But when people start to connect to the field and they give up their memory of their body, their personality, the things they own, the place they're sitting, the place they live, and time itself, they become pure consciousness. Now, time is created by a separation between 2 points of consciousness. There's me here, and then there's the door over there. And this is one point of consciousness, that's another point of consciousness. So I'm going to navigate in the three-dimensional world as a body, local in space and time. I got to drag my body through space. I have to collapse space, and I experience time. So people have their dreams, their goals, they have the things they want, and it takes time. We come back to the three-dimensional world. The environment is the same. Our home is the same. You know, everything is the same, and we have neurological networks in our brain that correlate with everything known in our life, all the people, the things, the places. So then the environment tends to regulate how we think and feel. So there's a little bit of a battle. It takes time for us to shave down some of those things, and we see it. We see people with all kinds of health conditions. It takes them a few years. They're uncompromising. They arrive, but it's taken them time. Well, what we're seeing now is that when we start seeing these amplitudes of energy, and we can actually many times predict when it's going to happen, that there is, as a consciousness, they're no longer their body living in the environment and living in time. They've disconnected from all of those elements. And if you're not your body, and if you're not your personality, and you're not the memory of your identity and your cell phone and your possessions and where you live and time, your appointments, the only thing you're left as is consciousness and awareness. And so when people begin to connect to that field, and they begin to pay attention to it, to experience it, to stay present with it, to become more aware of it, and they have the laxity of time that we're in a retreat and there's just nothing else to do, and they really, really get sincere and put their attention on it, they start to connect to that field. And as they connect to that field, it is an intelligence, it is a consciousness, it is an awareness, it's an energy. And as they begin to experience greater and greater degrees of oneness and wholeness, because that's its signature, they experience more wholeness, they experience less separation. So then as you move closer to it, you have the free-willed consciousness called the human being, a soul on the journey, and you have the consciousness of the field. And as you begin to close the gap between 2 points of consciousness, you close time as well. So we start to see the healings happening in a shorter amount of time because they're more connected to that field. Now, that's important because it's not matter at this point that's changing matter. It's energy that's changing matter. It's the field. And as people begin to connect to that field, it begins to reorganize matter in a biological upgrade in a very short amount of time because there's less separation between the consciousness as the individual and the consciousness of the field, or the energy of the field. And people are just getting better at it.
I really hope you loved this video and it was helpful. If you did, give your thumbs up. And now it's time for our daily Complete the Quote challenge. If you're new to this, your job is to complete the inspiring quote we choose for you and write the correct answer in the comments below the video. If you can give us the right answer first, you're the winner of this daily challenge. So far you were very successful, most of you knew the right answers. That's not a surprise, the most quotes belongs to Joe Dispenza, and you all are familiar with Joe's work. In the previous video we also had a quote that belongs to Dr. Joe Dispenza. We were looking for two words. The quote goes like this. Here's my definition of intention. Getting clear on what? And the correct answer was you want. So, here's my definition of intention. Getting clear on what you want. Congratulations to everyone with the correct answer. And to everyone who tried but didn't guess the answer. Today we also have the quote from Joe Dispenza. The quote goes like this. Meditation opens the door between the conscious and... So we are missing for two words. If you know the correct answer, write it down in the comment section. Even if you're not sure what the correct answer is, try and guess, and find out the right answer in the next video. If you really like what we do here and want to support us, You can join our channel and our community for a symbolic fee and gain many other additional features. You can do that by clicking the join button next to the subscribe button, or you can click on the link in the description of this video. Stay good and have a great day!
Kia lại khiến đôi mắt của em thêm sầu. Vì sao em đi cần để lại lý trí, chẳng để lại anh khi nước mắt còn rơi. Vì giờ em đã vội quên đi bao câu hứa mình còn cho nhau, quên đi bao nỗi đau mình dành. Ngày xưa em đã vội quên đi những lời hứa ngày nào, vì dòng nước mắt em đã vội rơi. Anh không thể mãi anh cứ nên vào điên rồi. Anh như say đôi mắt môi, anh như chỉ còn muốn em bên cạnh như ấm phố xa rồi. Anh chỉ muốn em cạnh đấy thôi, không muốn em ở bên đời, chỉ muốn em anh bên người. Người đã gỡ bước đi xa trong cơn mưa chiều vội vã, người đã bước quên anh khi cơn mưa qua gần vội vã. Em đã quên rồi mà sau đây mà về chẳng còn lại gì những người mà nước mắt rơi. Em khiến con tim như trôi bay trong chiều thu đầy nắng, em khiến con tim như tan vỡ trong chiều thu mát màng. Vì còn nhiều lắm những ngỡ vàng, nhiều lắm những nỗi vội vàng, nhiều lắm những cơn mưa em ở ta bây giờ đơn vang. Không mơ không mai đứng sang nhờ mai em còn thơ đôi hồng mai anh còn người ta xưa ta chúng còn giữ nhau chẳng để giữ lấy em khi cơn mưa về đến. Và chẳng cần nhau khi anh với em cùng một đêm trôi. Em ơi ta còn gì nữa đâu bằng cơn mưa ngày hôm qua, ta còn lại gì nữa đâu khi